What is good, rookies? Welcome to our trade talk video leading into round 4. We're going to go through some important things today. We're going to go through some of the injury reports. We're going to talk about Humpty Dumpty versus Marriage. We're going to talk about Bailey Sniff, the Schmidt man. We're going to talk about preparation for leading into round 5 and moving outside of the early buys, and how that should essentially influence what trades you do this week and next. More importantly this week, because this week you can kind of get away with doing some smaller trades with it being best 18. Before we do get into that though, just want to say massive thank you. We are so close to 500 subs. So if you're not subscribed, definitely show the support by hitting that subscribe button, give the video a like. And again, once we reach 500, we're going to do some amazing cool stuff as well. So before we get into any of that, we're going to go through some of the main injury news for this coming week. I'm not going to go through all of them, just more some key ones. So Rochelle, I'm highlighting purely because it may mean a shift for Rankin's role. I hope not, because he's been really solid, but this may mean that he spends some more time forward, which would be disappointing. But in the reverse side of that, it could also mean some more game time for Sid Draper. Maybe someone else steps in as the sub. I'm not too sure what is going to shift, but definitely one to watch and keep an eye on. Regarding Brisbane, Coleman is still 4 to 6. Great for Zork. Lohman is back out with an ankle for 1 week at this current stage, which is good for baby Ashcroft. Nothing else to note there. Carlton, Pitnet is 1 week away. So maybe start thinking about a plan for TDK if he, 1, doesn't move clubs, or 2, if we need to move out of that pick, essentially, because if they bring Pitnet back into the team, and if Vossi's going to keep doing Vossi things, he probably will get Pitnet back, but hopefully he spends some time in the VFL to get back into the run of things, but you never really know. Other ones to note is Cardwell is, they say TBC, but Essendon are on their bye this week, so one to watch for next week. But if Cardwell is kind of out or managed with some hamstring awareness, this could mean really good things for Sardis when they come back off their bye. Parrish is also a test, quote unquote. So the assumption is that Parrish will come back after the bye, but we're hoping that he gets some VFL time to lead back in. It's from what I can hear from Don supporters, they imagine Parrish will do some VFL time before stepping into the main stage. We'll see what happens, but just one to watch. Really interesting one for Fremantle. So Darcy's coming back into the team is a test. Looks pretty fit and healthy. Is reported to play this week. So for Jackson owners, definitely one to watch. We could see some regression. I mean, you probably just got the best spike score from Jackson, and now he's going to go back down to earth pretty ferociously. And Hayden Young is coming back in as well. This may impact Nod and shift some point sharing potentially sometime. Not that Nod was getting CBAs, but it'd be interesting to see the shift in the team dynamic. So keep an eye on for that. Nod could be on his way out should we see a really big shift in rotations and how that wing role looks. Geelong, nothing too crazy to note. Tom Stewart is a test to play. They assume that he probably will. Does this impact Connor O'Sullivan or Nevitt potentially with the restructure of having Stewart back? I don't imagine Nevitt's going to be a sub again, or at least we hope not, but we can't trust Chris Scott. Colin Jasny is 1 to 2 away. That's probably more of the influential pick on Connor O'Sullivan. So just keep an eye on that. He's still a good week away, but he's been ready for a while now. So if they bring him in next week, it's not a real surprise. The other interesting ones are Warple. So for Ward owners or Cam McKenzie owners, one to watch. He's just 1 week away. So if you're going to get out of the pick, just be prepared to do that next week. In regards to Melbourne, main one is probably Lindsay. Turns out it wasn't too much of a injury concern. There was some straining on just his knee, but should be fine next week. So definitely a hold on Lindsay if you have him. The role looked perfect. He looks like a very integral part of that side. I think he just slots right back in after his injury, or at least that's the hope. So I'm holding on to him. I think he's going to be a really good rook this year as well. Any other ones? We really have, I mean, we noticed that someone from here is missing, which is Pickett. So we can assume that he's being named. So it would be interesting to see if Henderson gets dropped. So one to watch for that. North Melbourne, we have Wardlaw coming back in as a test. May come in this week. I haven't seen too much out of North Melbourne just yet. But this could mean shifts for like Simpkin if you're looking to bring him in. It could mean shifts for Sheasel, which we're kind of hoping happens because Sheasel's been playing a bit of a no man's land role, just going half back, half forward, some mid time. It's just really it's not confidence. Not building any confidence to hold on to him, but we'll see what happens. Butters is popping back into port. Some people have concerns about what happens to Moraes when Butters comes back. I don't see too much influencing that sort of thing, but definitely just one to be curious of. I still think Moraes is a great pick for a rookie if you need to pick one up this week. Any other main ones? I mean, O'Connell obviously went down with that push from Mansell, who's been copped with a suspension for 3 weeks. He's out for concussion for 1 to 2 weeks. Steele is a test. He was a laid out last week. The one to watch. And Stocker, I believe, was out last week as well. So they will most likely fit back into the side. I'm not sure what that means in regards to some shifts with the Garcia if you hold on to him. Hasty just wasn't even worth it. So you assume that Hasty will slide right back out of that team. Just looked very afraid to do anything proper. Sydney-wise, it looks like there had been some pushbacks, some delays in returns. So Cunningham's 1 to 2, McInerney's around 6, Melican's 1 to 2, and Mills seems to be like another month out from what we're seeing being reported. So someone like me who's potentially holding onto a fridge to get Mills in after the bye, probably not happening, which makes me want to get out of fridge or hold on to fridge until Stewie bottoms out and then pick him back up, which I mentioned I'm more than happy to do. So hopefully Stewart plays this week and does okay. Not amazing because we want to get as much price drop, but then we could potentially switch him out to Stewart next week and feel pretty confident with our defensive line then as well. Jack Hutchinson, we got a 1 to 2. Nothing too crazy here. Elliot Yeo is still 4 to 5. Waterman's a test. The interesting one here is McGovern. He had a groin adductor issue. He's out 2 to 4. This could mean good things for Marek, or it could mean bad things depending on how we see that team shift. We saw Harley Reid kind of swing back and be more of that interceptor, and Marriage kind of turned into that lockdown type defensive role. So one to watch for that. I still think Marriage or Dumpty are still a great choice. And then Bulldogs, nothing too crazy. Cleary's a test. Bond's still 3 to 5. Treloar's now 4 to 6. I think, yeah, Ed Richards and Libba, I still think they're fine. Libba's definitely a great hold. Obviously, he's been absolutely smashing it. But obviously, we had Richards that gave us a low score of 76. I still think he's going to be okay. He's definitely the least of our issues. But without really any more diving into injury reports, it kind of gives us a bit more of an understanding on the layout and what we need to be keeping an eye on, not only for this week, but also moving forward. Because it means that, hey, we should probably start planning on TDK's exit if Pitnetty's coming back and TDK re-signs with Carlton, for example. We'll move to a Meek or a Briggs or something like that. So you got to start thinking about that. Obviously, with Treloar and Bont being out, I'm probably still hopeful that Fraser can at least give me an 80 this week. They are coming up against Fremantle, so it's not going to be a tough gig by any means, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's a close game. There's that beautiful scaling at the end that we all love. Sheasel, again, I think he's just a hold. I really think he's just a hold. There's no other real ones to be concerned about. I said Nod's a big watch this week to see what happens. Ashcroft should have a spike game with Lohman out and playing Richmond. So definitely one to watch. Lindsay, we're holding, so we're going to flick him over to the bench. One to watch as well is Camporelli. A lot of people, a lot of blue baggers are saying that he should get picked up again. It's just a matter of when. If he's not named this week, I think I just spend a boost and get him Moraes for him. It's literally a side trade of a rookie, but we just need that cash gen, and I don't really want to have a dead rook sitting on my bench. I had plenty of dead rooks last season and absolutely killed cash gen and made things extremely hard for upgrade season. So really important that we do that. SPP will still make money. Davidson's going to make a lot of money. Kako's still going to make money, and so is Stone. Henderson as well. Not really hard to do at a 99k rookie, but did enough. Interesting to see what happens with Pickett coming back into the side. Does he become sub? Does he get dropped entirely? Team sheets will ultimately help decide our final moves. But what am I looking at? Well, there's been a lot of discussion around Humpty Dumpty and marriage. I think it's really tough because Humpty Dumpty has probably more data behind him at the moment. He's probably like the fourth banana. We see Tuke Miller's been kind of regressed down CBA time for Flanders, which we kind of thought Flanders would affect Humphreys, but it's not necessarily what we're seeing. I still think Marriage or Humpty is a great choice if you haven't taken a risk on like a Fraser or an SDK or something like that, where you can kind of afford to. I've done my run with some risky plays. I'm gonna hold on to Fraser for dear life and hope he just pays out a little bit more just to get us to maybe that 410, 415 mark, even more if he has some spike scores. I'm not gonna go there. My structure is to try to get as many keepers as soon as possible to keep rookies off field. Now, when I brought in the Fridge, he was indeed a gap stop. So he was my path back to Stewart, for example, just so I could get Sinclair, which paid off beautifully for that week outside of Fraser, just not doing anything really important while Dale got absolutely kissed. But that's essentially what I'm looking at, which means, well, my trade targets are below. I have been eyeing off Whitfield all week, but the only way I can get there is if I move Fridge up, which means I need to move Horny Man down to Baz, and then I can sideways Camperelli to get in, a Bice or a Moraes, but I can only get one. I don't hate it because the run for Zorko is beautiful. So we've got Richmond, then we've got Bulldogs, then we've got Collingwood, and then after that, he's got Saints, he's got Gold Coast, so he shouldn't do too bad. But then he's got North, then he's got Melbourne. Like the run's just really, really nice. And very much kind of the same thing for Whitfield. So if we look at Mr. Whitty, the glass cannon, as I like to call him, because it is scary to watch him. He has West Coast and Saints in the next two. He has Adelaide, which will be a little bit tougher, but not tag worthy. The game of concerns around 8. So I feel like if you're going to get Whitfield, you kind of have to do it this week, which is annoying because a lot of people, if we don't have Baz, we kind of have to get Baz. But in saying that, there is a world where we can get Baz. It just means that the structure has to shift a little bit, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm comfortable with it. So the more aggressive play is we get Baz and Whitfield. So Fridge goes out, Horn Francis comes out, and essentially we just go bang with Whitfield, bang with Smith, and then we want to get one of Bice or Moraes. So we can essentially either trade out Pryor and bank the cash, or we can get rid of a dead rook. Now, if Camperelli's not named, I get Moraes. If he is named, Pryor gets the chop still. He was in our plans. Bice is going to catch up to him very, very quickly in regards to cash gen. I don't mind holding Pryor, though. He's still going to make a decent amount of cash for us at the same time. Already at 200, can probably get to... Let's just have a look. So let's just go based off his average. So he's averaging around 62. So we'll just play it for 62. Where is the... I did install the extension to do this. So let's just hope it works. There we go. Come on. All right. Please work. Yeah, sweet. There we go. So if we put him at 62 and he holds his spot, he's going to make some decent cash. He's going to be able to get up to 300, maybe have some spike games in here to kind of get there around round 9, hopefully. So he's going to make plenty of cash. 300's amazing. So it means we can put him down to maybe an Allen when he decides to show up, and then use the cash to go up on a mid-pricer or something like that. So this is one of the options that I really, really like because it's going aggressive very early. It's shifting some structure to a really strong defensive line where the rookies are hit and miss. I don't expect these guys to do this every week, which is why I think Bice is still a great pickup. So I kind of want Camperelli to be named because he's got a nice break even as well. So if we bring Camperelli back in, we'll just bring Campo. Make sure you grab Lucas first and foremost. But if we have a look at Campo's break even, it's still a nice 41. He's on an average of 54. So let's just say, coming back into the side, let's just say he can get that up to a 60. He's still going to make us plenty of cash, which is nice. Even if he doesn't play on field, he's just a nice bench warmer that's making cash. So I don't hate the idea of moving Pryor down to Bice, because Bice is going to make that cash up quickly if he maintains the average that he's currently got. So he's averaging around 74. So let's just say, to be reasonable, let's just put it at a straight 70. So if we put him at a straight 70 and project, he's going to make that cash in 2 games earlier, 3 games earlier, if he has a few more spike scores than Pryor would. So I don't mind moving Pryor down to Bice to free up some cash. But it also means we have, because we're moving down, Camporelli gets named, means he's no longer a dead rook. We get to take 110 into next week, which, looking at potentially TDK moving on, potentially, O'Driscoll having to need a shift, we can do a few. We've got options with that money in the bank, which is healthy. Again, very aggressive. We're strengthening our back line at the cost of our forward line, essentially, because the idea was to get a rookie off the field in the forward line, because the only one we can really trust on field is Davidson at this point. But structure-wise, it's a little bit shaky. Whereas we keep Fraser, hope that he does enough for us. And what we can do is we can move Pryor down to Bice. Or again, this is essentially happening regardless. And we figure out what to do with Camporelli at a later date. And then we essentially just move good old Hal Pepper up to Mr. Smith. So we can do that. And then if Camporelli is named, we hold off. If he's not named, we can boost and move him to Moraes. So we'll boost him in for now, because I think the cash gen on Moraes is going to be very, very nice. And I don't really have too many concerns around, his job security or role. I think that's going to stick. Nevitt will be one to watch in regards to sub play if he gets dropped or anything like that. But this is what we're essentially going to be running with if we do this route. So we're going to captain or VC Zorko, maybe captain Sinclair in this instance, maybe put a VC on Oliver. Nice little cheeky pod VC. Tends to do well against Geelong. He's got some big numbers up against him previously. So we'll see what happens. But could be a sneaky VC and then we just captain Zorko. But I'm trying to be a lot safer with my VC and C picks. So it's one thing that's let us down. So I'm going to focus on getting that right this week, because it's going to be a very influential week for where we kind of have as a starting point for the rest of the season, which is why I don't mind going aggressive and getting in Baz and Whitfield, getting rid of any mid-pricer essentially and moving towards a guns and rookies approach and just stop taking the risk. However, this works out overall structure-wise, I feel much better, because we have 1 rook on field in defense, 1 rook on field in the forward line, and then we just kind of focus on upgrading around our midfield. So Fraser, we'll have enough cash around the ballpark essentially to do some things. But yeah, I'm undecided. Make sure you follow me on X to get all the final updates. Team sheets will help us decide what play we have, if Campo's definitely dropped or whatever the issue may be. Team sheets always provide some sort of issues that makes us have a shift. But let me know what you guys are thinking. Are you guys jumping on the Humpty or Marich? Are you guys definitely getting in Smith? Do you think he's a must-have? Or are you going a bit more passive and you're just getting in, dead rooks off the bench? Maybe you still got a Hasty you need to get rid of or something like that. What are you guys doing? Let me know down below. Hit me up on X. I love talking about trades and even assisting with trades and giving my 2 cents. Don't feel like it's a ask to reach out to me to talk about trades. I absolutely love doing it. It helps me think about my trades too, which is why the community just loves the live streams and doing all that fun stuff. So if you made it this far, give the video a like, hit the subscribe button, aim for 500. We're so close. And I will see you guys on the weekend for our check-in on Saturday night for our Supercoach After Dark. And we'll most likely have the Man Supercoach Pro with us. So stay tuned for that. And then our review video on Sunday. Cheers.